State workers are set to see some add-ons to their benefits package. This upgrade will apply to more than 30,000 employees across the state. Last week, Governor Andy Beshear announced a 6-week paid leave plan for executive branch employees to care for a new child or deal with a serious illness. It would be available in 3 intervals over their career. The enhanced leave plan starts for a new hire on day 1. Another 6 weeks is available at 10 years of employment and another at 20 years on the job. The Kentucky Center for Economic Policy, a progressive-leaning think tank, recently released a study on parental leave policies' positive impact in hiring and keeping top talent. I talked with State Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe today at our Capitol Operations Center in Frankfort about the plan that resembles a policy change she'd proposed last legislative session that stalled. Well, Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe, it's good to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk first about paid leave. We know that the governor has said that state employees in the executive branch will soon be eligible for paid leave on day 1, right? This is something that you advocated for, a version of it during the last legislative session. First, why do you think this is so important for executive branch employees?
You know, it's pro-family and pro-workforce, and I've seen firsthand the benefit of when employees feel supported at the workplace, they have better support at home. And so it's a great opportunity for, I think, us to offer a benefit. You know, state employees, our salaries aren't always competitive with the private sector. And so this is a way to offer a benefit to working moms and dads to provide a little extra stability. And it helps with retention, recruitment, helps with morale. And it's an important step to support families.
Do we know how much this would cost? I mean, if you had to do a fiscal impact on it, what's the cost?
So I did a fiscal impact last year because I was also very concerned about that. And really, it's opportunity cost. We don't typically backfill positions for short excesses unless you really have an important job where you might backfill some of those. But really, it's an opportunity cost. So the cost really isn't significant at all to the budget.
How does what you had proposed differ or similar to what the governor's action is?
So, you know, it was President Trump and his first administration that gave 12 weeks to federal employees, which was rather substantial years ago, and that's more standard in the private sector as well. So I proposed 4 weeks as a way to kind of start the conversation. The governor's proposing 6, which honestly is closer to what child care really needs. If you're a new mom, a new baby, most of those child cares don't open up opportunities till 6 weeks. So it does give a little bit more of a bridge for that, and it offers more things than mine did. His proposal increases for medical issues or for leave for foster and birth, as well as, I believe, for kinship care as well. So he's got some other things, and major medical, I know, is something people have asked for.
And you agree with all of that?
I do. I think it's an important step. I mean, the plan is certainly different than mine. The 10 years is rather unique. When they explained it to me, I kind of said, well, where did you get this? And they've made it up all on their own. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, so just for our viewers to connect them to what you're saying, it says that the first time an employee can access the benefit is from day 1 to year 10, and then they can access it again between years 10 and 20 and between year 20 and the end of their career. So if we're talking about, some people will say, well, that seems odd that you would be considering adoption or foster care perhaps toward the end of your career.
I agree with you. I was very interested in why I kind of asked the questions why it's so unique, but I do think the major medical piece is why they did that. So if you've been there for a long time, let's say you have a cancer situation or another major medical illness, you may need that additional time, different when you're early in your career, you are having babies or having foster or adoption. So I think that does make sense, but it is unique, which is why I kind of suggested let's go through the administrative reg process. Let's let the public vet this as well as the General Assembly. And then if we need to codify it or change it into actual law, we'll do that after we've had a little bit more time to think about the plan.
Right. So our viewers understand an executive order of the governor doesn't necessarily need to have General Assembly approval, right?
It does not in this case, and that was kind of some of the conversations I had with the House members who felt like they were supportive of my proposed bill and legislation, but felt like it was something the governor has had the opportunity to do if he so chooses. And so this was really his decision. And so it will go through administrative regs, and the General Assembly will hear it, but it won't have our statement of approval, if you will. So a future governor could change the regulation, of course, and that's why I'll be interested to see if we need to codify it on our side in perpetuity.
Yeah, and do you think as a preemptive measure you should pass a law?
Not right now.
Not right now.
No, I think if my bill and their proposal had matched,
Yeah.
perhaps I would have run the same piece of legislation. But given the differences, which I think are more substantial, that it needs to go through that process and get a little bit more vetting before I do that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's switch gears and talk about more of what could be happening in 2025 session, which is, gosh, we can count the days now, can we? Which is hard to believe. You are vice chair of the Appropriations and Revenue Committee. What kind of legislation do you expect to consider during this non-budget year?
Sure. I think one of the things we learned from the election this last year is how important inflation, the purchasing power of the dollar has certainly gone down, the cost of groceries. So the economy has been on the hearts and minds of, I think, of voters for the last couple of years. And so we're going to continue to go through tax reform. I think you'll see in the very first week a reduction from the House to move to 3.5%, which even the governor said he thought was a manageable, good idea to kind of stabilize the economy and put more money back in the hands of taxpayers. So that'll be the first thing we do. And then I think as you move through the session, you may see some workforce development and retention efforts, which I think is important. Growing the workforce is how we're going to grow the economy. So finding a way to make sure we're recruiting the best, retaining the best, will be an interesting part of that as well.
We'll have more with Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe tomorrow night when she talks more about what legislators could consider in the lawmaking session that begins January 7th.